Hello, good morning, good evening, good night. As I posted, it is late in the BTS land called Korea. And yes, this is BTS land. Hello. Hi, Dad. I had to yell at you. The teacher should not have to yell at her student. Dobie. I'm kidding. I love you, Dad. I love you. I love you so much. So I'm gonna do a thing. I did it towards the end of the first class. Because I figured out how to get video to get my webcam to work. Thanks to a friend. Need you. I need you. And hi. I'm waiting to see if you can see me. If you can see me, post something. Say something. Hi. So, today we are going to be going over the staff, the clefs, 2 of the clefs, and the actual music alphabet. This is going to be the hardest class. Hands down, easily, no matter what, forever and ever, amen, this will be the hardest class. You can see me? Hi, Dad. Hi, Dobie. Hi, my Dobie. My cute Dobie. I hope Dobie did her homework. I'm just gonna say, I hope Dobie, I hope you did your homework. Because if not, fish. So, try to fix that and see if that can get better. We're going to be going over the staff, the clefs, and the alphabet. This is going to be the hardest one. This is the one that I would highly recommend. If you're able to take notes, take notes. If you're able to watch this again, watch it again. If you can, hang on, there. Okay, there. Dev, I did a thing. You're welcome, I did a thing. But this is definitely one that you will want to keep referencing. This is one that you're going to want to keep fresh in your mind until it's second nature. But before we get started and go over our homework and go get into everything, I just want to give a shout out for this wonderful picture. This picture right here. One of the members in management, Maddie, who is like my twin, we share the same brain cell, she took film out and she made it into a score. She turned it into like a full composition score for strings, and it is absolutely beautiful. I told you I did a thing, Dev. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely, if you see me looking this way, the chat's over here. It's not right here, it's over here. So I'm gonna keep looking this way. But definitely check it out. I think she has it pinned on her Twitter. I think. If not, we've definitely shared it. But yeah, I just want to give her a shout out because I asked her for a screenshot and she gave me a beautiful one, and I thank her so much. So, basics of music: the staff, the clefs, and the alphabet. Now, when I say clefs, I'm talking about two. There's more than two clefs in music. There's technically 4, but 2 of them. Well, there's more that throughout history, but modern clefs used in music today is predominantly 4. We're not going over all 4. We're only doing the 2 main ones, the 2 big ones, the ones that everyone recognizes. If I were to show some of the other clefs, people would probably think that I'm crazy, which is natural because they may. Alright, so apparently Dev didn't do her homework. I have to go, after class, I need to go throw a floofy stuffed fish at Dev because she didn't do her homework. But we're going to go over our dynamics homework. So, remember what I said about last time. The dynamics homework, this is subjective. It's what you think it is. It's not what exactly is right or wrong. This is going to be the only homework that is subjective. Floofy fish is coming your way, woman. Floofy fish. Just saying, Dev. This is the only one that is going to be subjective. All the ones starting from today on, it's either right or it's wrong. There's no in between. There's no maybe. It's yes or no. Because music, whenever we're learning the basics of music, whenever we're doing stuff in music like this, it has to be exact. There's set rules that have been in place for hundreds of years, and they have not changed, and we're not about to allow it to change. So, let's listen to the 2 songs that I said were homework. You had to choose one of them in order to listen to. We're going to listen to First Love, and then I'll go over the dynamics route, and then Interlude Shadow. If you did not do your homework, Dev, I would recommend doing your homework as we are listening to these songs, Dev. Okay? So, let's listen to First Love. I love the songs. I love the song. It speaks to me as a musician because it is about how, like, Yoongi's first love ended up being music and ended up being the piano. And for me, my first love has always been the clarinet. So, yeah, this music speaks to me on a very special level.
내 기억의 구석 한켠에 자리 잡은 갈색 피아노 어릴 적 집안의 구석 한켠에 자리 잡은 갈색 피아노 그때 기억해 내 키보다 훨씬 더 컸던 갈색 피아노 그게 나를 이끌 때 널 우러러보며 동경했었네 작은 손가락으로 널 어루만질 때 I feel so nice, mom, I feel so nice 그저 손 가던 대로 거닐던 건반 그때 너의 의미를 몰랐었네 바라보기만 해도 좋았던 그때 그때 기억해 초등학교 무렵 내 키가 너의 키보다 더 커졌던 그때 그토록 동경했던 널 등하시하며 배고 갔던 건 방구 위 먼지가 쌓여가며 방치됐던 네 모습 그때도 몰랐어 너의 의미 내가 어딨던 넌 항상 그 자리 시켰으니 그런데 그게 마지막 이럴 줄 몰랐네 이대로 가지마 you say 내가 떠나도 걱정은 하지마 넌 스스로 잘 해낼 테니까 널 처음 만났던 그때가 생각나 어느새 울적해버린 내 네가 우리 관계 마침 펼치지만 절대 내게 미안해 하지마 어떤 형태로도 날 다시 만나게 될 거야 그때 반갑게 다시 맞아줘 그때 기억해 까맣게 잊고 있었던 널 다시 마주했던 14살 무렵 어색도 잠시 다시 날 어루만졌지 긴 시간 떠나 있어도 절대 거부감 없이 날 받아줬던 너 Without you I'm nothing 새벽을 지나서 둘이서 함께 맞는 아침 영원히 너는 나의 손을 놓지 마 나도 다시 널 놓지 않을 테니까 그때 기억해 나의 심장의 마지막에 늘 함께 불태웠던 너 그래 한치 앞도 빼지 않던 그때 울고 웃고 너 함께 웃어 그 순간조차 이제는 추억으로 박살난 어깨를 잡고 말했지 나 더 이상은 진짜 못하겠다고 포기하고 싶던 그때마다 곁에서 난 말했지 이 새끼야 너는 진짜 할 수 있다고 그래 그때 기억해 지치고 방황했었던 절망의 깊은 수렁에 빠졌던 그때 내가 널 밀어내고 널 만난 걸 원망했던 넌 꿋꿋이 내 곁을 지켰지 말 안 해도 그러니 절대 너는 내 손을 놓지 마두 번 다시 내가 널 놓지 않을 테니까 나의 탄생 그리고 내 삶의 끝 그 모든 걸 지켜봐 너일 테니까 내 기억의 구석 한켠에 자리 잡은 갈색 피아노 어릴 적 집안의 구석 한켠에 자리 잡은 갈색 피아노
Alright, so let me go to Becky. Hello again. I learned how to do things. I've officially been able to play with OBS. So let's go over this really quick. So First Love, this is on the Wings album. It's by Yoongi. It's his solo track. Here's the dynamics I came up with. So the first one we're going to do is Mine. I listened to both of them. We have Mine, we have Donna, and also Maddie, because I asked them to participate as well, since they're also the music queens. They're more queen than I am. So from the very beginning, I could tell the piano was at about piano, and Yoongi was at about mezzo piano. So it was a mix of piano to mezzo piano, which is a good thing. Because he's the vocalist, he should always be above the accompaniment. He should never be below the accompaniment. Like, if this is the accompaniment, the soloist needs to be up here, never down here. If the accompaniment is louder than the soloist, that's a bad thing. But when the metronome comes in, I heard the piano crescendoing with the metronome. That metronome is the tick, 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 tick. Every musician hates metronomes. We love metronomes. They're great. They're wonderful. We hate metronomes at the same time, especially when we know the speed how it's supposed to go, and we're forced to use a metronome. I hate metronomes so much. I prefer to just look at a director and just look at the baton and figure out the tempo. So then I noticed the piano finishes its crescendo at about mezzo piano to mezzo forte. Why is this doing that? Go there. It goes to mezzo piano, up to mezzo piano, mezzo forte, whenever it gets to the pretty chords. That's kind of around the time the strings come in. So when the strings come, that's around the same time as the string comes in. But I also noticed that Yoongi, he does a crescendo, decrescendo with the piano and the strings at the same time. And then I did a very fancy music term called pushing and pulling. Pushing and pulling is a very instrumental type technique where it's either how hard you play or how soft you play. With wind instruments, it's all about our lungs. It's all about our air. And it deals predominantly it can deal with dynamics because it's getting louder and getting softer. So instead of just putting crescendo, decrescendo, crescendo, decrescendo, we'll say, okay, they're pushing and pulling the dynamics, or they're pushing and pulling the tempo. And that's something I'll get into in a different class. But the strings are pushing and pulling that dynamic level between piano and mezzo piano. And when the peak happens, remember whenever I said last time, the peak is never in the middle of the piece, it's always towards the end of the piece. So when that peak starts to grow, Yoongi gradually crescendos to forte and then peaks for double forte, fortissimo, at about 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And then all of a sudden, when he starts breathing, it's subito. Subito is Italian for sudden. That's not a word I taught you guys. Sometimes there's just going to be words that we use that I'm just going to have to teach you. It's fine. But subito means sudden. It means right away. So subito piano with the breaths. Another way to tell whenever something kind of goes sudden, whenever the dynamic change is sudden, is the lack of instruments. Whenever instruments just cut out completely, that's when you can tell that there is, what is going on? Okay. I don't know why it's saying I have good connection when my thing is just bad the entire time. But with the breaths, it's subito, and then it just crescendos and decrescendos into mezzo piano. For me, I don't hear a decrescendo into nothing. I hear strings finishing, and then it's just a sudden finish. Now, the next person I had, so Donna did First Love as well. There's a reason I said don't focus on the lyrics. It's because I told Donna many times, don't focus on the lyrics. Focus on how he's saying it. How is it being delivered? What's the volume in his voice, not what is being said. I love Miss Donna, but I don't think she understood that. Because she added other stuff to it and was like, I don't need instruments dropping in and out. I need actual just dynamics. But she kind of agrees. It starts at mezzo piano, it crescendos into mezzo forte, and then there's a crescendo and decrescendo ending at mezzo piano around the same time that I noticed as well. Then it goes mezzo forte, crescendo into fortissimo, which again, that fortissimo is that peak. And then it goes into mezzo forte, mezzo piano, and she heard a decrescendo. I didn't. I'm not sure how she heard it, but I didn't hear it. I couldn't tell that there was a decrescendo. And I've listened to the song many times, and I focus on the instrumental part. This is where dynamics is subjective. Some people hear things that others don't. But that was First Love. Now we're going to listen to Interlude Shadow, which is like one of my favorite tracks on Map of the Soul 7. So let's listen to Shadow. Again, don't focus on what he is saying. Focus on how he's saying it. That's the only way to really understand the dynamics. You don't need to listen to what's being said and understand what's being said. You just need to listen to how is he saying it. Is he loud? Is he soft? Is the background music soft, or is it a little loud? You don't need to focus on the words. That's the point of dynamics. You don't have to focus on the words. You focus on you need to focus on everything else. And this is kind of ear training. This is kind of like the start of ear training. So let's listen to Interlude Shadow.
I wanna be rockstar, I wanna be the top, I wanna be a rockstar, I want it on mine. I wanna be rich, I wanna be the king, I wanna go win. I wanna be a rockstar, I wanna be the top, I wanna be a rockstar, I want it on mine. I wanna be rich, I wanna be the king, I wanna be me, I wanna be the more boy, let me see, I got a big dream, yeah. 매일 설레지 내가 어디까지 갈지 정신없이 달리다 보니 어느새 여기까지 왔지. Yeah, 발 밑에 그림자 고개 숙여 보니 더 커지잖아. 도망쳐봤잖아 따라오는 저 빛과 비례하는 내 그림자. 두려워 누구나 하는 게 너무 무섭지. 아무도 말 안 해줬잖아. 여기가 얼마나 외로운지 말여 나의 동작은 추락이 될 수 있단 걸 이제 알겠어. 때론 도망이 자선이란 걸. 사람들은 뭐 말하지 저 빛 속은 찬란한 내 근데 내 그림자 되는 더 커져 나를 삼킨 괴물이 돼. 저 위로 또 위로만 가다 보니 여기는 어지러워도 위로만 가는 실온 무사히 바른 대로 높게 날고 있는 순간 저 내려쬐는 빛에 더 커진 그림자 Please don't let me shine Don't let me down Don't let me fly 이제는 두려워 가장 밑바닥에 나를 마주하는 순간 공교롭게도 여기 창공이잖아 Please don't let me shine Don't let me down Don't let me fly 이제는 무서워 Don't let me shine 웃어봐 뭘 망설여 네가 바라던 게 이런 게 아니었니 울던가 뭐가 두려워 네가 원하던 게 이런 게 아니었니 네가 바란 삶 네가 원한 삶 네가 필요한 삶 그게 없이 다 알았지 거기에다 너는 빅하우스 빅하우스 빅빅 네가 원한 건 모든 걸 가졌지 근데 뭐가 문제야 즐겨 아니면 노통가 싫어 그럼 다르던가 뭐 멈추던가 한 가지만 하라고 생각하지 말고 알려줄 수가 없다고 정말 몰랐었냐고 네가 가진 만큼만 나는 가져갈게 그게 뭐든지 말이야 때론 너의 휴식은 추락이 된단 걸 이제 알겠니 매번 최선이란 걸 바른 대로 높게 날고 있는 순간 저 내려쬐는 빛에 더 커진 그림자 Please don't let me shine Don't let me down Don't let me fly 이제는 두려워 가장 밑바닥에 나를 마주하는 순간 공교롭게도 여기 창공이잖아 Please don't let me shine Don't let me down Don't let me fly 이제는 무서워 Don't let me shine I wanna be the top I wanna be a rockstar I want it on mine I wanna be rich I wanna be the king I wanna go win I wanna be rapped I wanna be the top I wanna be a rockstar I want it on mine I wanna be rich I wanna be the king I wanna be me I wanna be 그래 나는 너고 너는 나야 이제 알겠니 그래 너는 나고 나는 너야 이제 알겠지 우리랑 몸을 걷고 내는 부딪혀야지 너는 절대 나를 떼어낼 수 없어 알겠지 떼어낼 수 없어 네가 뭐를 하든지 인정하는 게 더 편안하겠지 성공 혹은 실패 어디든지 도망칠 수 없어 어디 가든지 나는 너고 너는 나야 알겠니 너는 나고 나는 너야 알겠니 우리랑 몸을 걸고 부딪히겠지 우린 너고 우린 나야 알겠니
All right. Excuse me. Now, Shadow. Again, this is like one of my favorite parts because that ending for me is like musically the greatest thing ever. Maddie goes crazy over theory things. I go crazy over tempo changes and dynamic changes and style changes, and I go crazy over all the other stuff. All the stuff that instrumentalists are happy about. She likes the theory side, I like the other side. So, I love that ending. I love that that key change and tempo change and oh. So, this one not as much as I heard with First Love, but it started with piano and it crescendoed into mezzo piano. That siren was a slight crescendo. And then when Yoongi comes in, the vocal starts at piano, and then the whole entire track does a gradual crescendo into mezzo forte. Now, this right here, the SPZ, that it's like a sforzando, but it's for piano. It's not an actual thing. It's just I didn't want to do a sudden subito piano, and this is what I thought of. So it was a subito piano. It was a sudden piano at pause. Because it was a quick, nothing, pause, keep going. And then it was a slight crescendo to forte going into the chorus itself. And then here's that word subito again. Subito means sudden in Italian. So subito, mezzo piano after the chorus. So the chorus is, or no, I can't do the chorus because I can't remember. And then it crescendos into mezzo forte again. And then the chorus then crescendos and decrescendos with the subito piano, and that subito piano is I want to be a rock star. I want it all mine. I want to be a rock star. Like it's that part. It's when that that sudden, that change, you can tell that change is happening. And so then it's a long, gradual crescendo to that key and tempo change that I love so much. Oh, I love it. I loved it the first time. I love it every time. And to mezzo forte to about forte with crescendos and decrescendos throughout the entire thing. And then at the very end, it decrescendos into nothing. Because it just silently just ends. There's not a sudden stop point. It just ends. Maddie kind of heard similar things. It starts at mezzo piano, the chorus is in forte, the shadow section, which is that key and tempo change, is fortissimo with lots of sforzandos at the end. Another word for sforzando with that, and Maddie, Donna, and I kind of talked about it in our little group chat thing, is something called accents, which is something that I'll be getting to definitely later once we have everything else down, because we don't constantly want to put sforzando on everything whenever we can just make a pow with a sound really quick and it just go away. So this is what we did. I want to see those who actually did do the homework. I want to see what you thought of. I want you to post it on Discord. I want you to post a picture on Discord or on Twitter tagging MAO7, and then put the hashtag. I'm going to put it in chat. Hashtag basics in music. And so that way I can be able to go and see and possibly even have discussions about how dynamics are different. Because even then, though you see 4 very different styles, and mine is like more in detail because I listen to the backtrack more than anything, ours are still different. There's a lot of similarities because of the years of training we have, but it's still predominantly different. So if you want to, I would love to see what you've done. Now, let's get into our lesson for today. We are now entering the realm of where the terms that we're going to be learning today are all going to be in English. Dynamics are predominantly in Italian because Italians were the ones that kind of focused in on music the most during Renaissance era, and that's all in music history. Now we're getting into English terms. All of the terms that are here are going to be all in English. And the first one we're going to be learning is the staff. The staff is the actual lines that are on a page of music. So if you look at this picture right here, the actual lines that are on this page right here and right here, this is the staff. The staff is always 5 lines, 4 spaces, no more, no less. If you have 6 lines, it's wrong. If you have 4 lines, nope. 5 lines, 4 spaces. It's been that way since the creation of music. Well, I think I want to say since Gregorian. That's a conversation I need to have with Maddie. Dev! Remind me to message Maddie. Most music, now when I say most music, I'm talking orchestra compositions, I'm talking wind ensembles, I'm talking jazz. Those tend to start with a staff. Like it's a blank piece of paper with just staff lines, all throughout the entire page. And there's a reason for that, and we'll get into that reason later. The only exception for this is going to be vocalists. Vocalists tend to start, if they're writing a song, they all have their own method. I know some people who just start with the lyrics. I know people who, BTS, a lot of the members, they start with the actual backtrack and then create the lyrics to the backtrack. Or they'll actually start with sheet music and write in the notes itself. 감사합니다. So, with the staff itself, how is it made? Again, 5 lines, 4 spaces, no more, no less. If you take a blank piece of paper, just a regular, random, I would use this, but as you can see, this has all my notes on it. Take a random blank piece of paper, and you're just going to draw 5 lines. actually. Here. Exemplar pencil. So here, you're just going to draw 1, 2, bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines. You see 5 lines and 4 spaces. No more, no less. You want to make sure they're equal between each other. And yes, you're seeing all of my notes. This shows that I do prep. I stayed up until 4 in the morning prepping, so I had IRL life going on. But you want to make sure that it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't want this. You don't want line, giant space, line, small space, line, giant space. No. You want this. You want equal space between the lines and the you can't see it. It's okay. It's still pencil. You want an equal space between them. So, for example, here's another blank piece of paper, an actual piece of paper where you can be able to see it. Here's a line, another line, another line. Oh, look. There are now 5 lines. And these 5 lines are within equal space of each other. That's the big thing with music. With the staff, it has to be an equal space. It can't be more, it can't be less. It has to be equal. It has to be even with each other. So we have our 5 lines, and then if you count the spaces, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. For now, and probably a little bit of the foreseeable future, this is line 1, this is line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. The same thing here. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. And then space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4. Until we're comfortable with actual note names, that's what we're going to do. So, how about, what the heck are these things? Like, what are these? How are they important? Why are they needed in music? What is going on? Well, the first one is my favorite. It's a personal favorite. It's the treble clef. So like I said earlier, there are 2 main clefs that are used in music. And when I say main clefs used in music, there are 2 clefs that are used in piano music. And there's kind of a reason for it. It's because one of the clefs is very weird and can actually move around. And it just doesn't work with piano. But treble clef. I love the treble clef. Treble clef is made for higher notes, higher pitches. So if you think about a piano, right hand, left hand. Right hand, it goes this way on the piano. This goes high. This is your treble cleft hand. This is treble cleft. Other instruments that use the treble clef is the flute, the violin, the clarinet, and the trumpet. Those are just a few of the ones that use treble clef. The best way to remember what a treble clef looks like, it looks like a very fancy S. What do you mean by what? Ask your question, ma'am. Also, if you are watching this, please ask questions in chat. I will answer them. I will try to answer them and explain them the best way I can. Again, this is the big hurdle. This is the big one. This is the one that you will have to reference again and again because you just need to get it under your belt. So, someone also said that it looks like a G. It kind of does, like especially down here. Now, pay very, very close attention to this swirl. This swirl is incredibly important. So, where exactly does the treble clef go in the actual staff? With music, you know what? I have other pens. I hate that blue does that. You probably saw I have fruit fly flying around as well. Actually, here we go. In Hive Insight. Totally not promoting Hive Insight. Because I love them so much. With all of the clefs, when you're looking at sheet music, it's always cleft, then everything else. Everything else, the other stuff that goes on the very front of the staff, will go over in a different class. But it's always the cleft first. Every single cleft that the 2 clefs that we're learning today have a very, very specific place that they go. They can't move. If they move, they're not that cleft anymore. There's something really weird. It doesn't make sense. With the treble cleft, again, notice the swirl. This swirl is on line 4. Remember, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. The third cleft is called a C cleft, because it can, and it's the one that moves. So the C cleft actually, so like if it's like right here, this is C. I don't know what it's what like it would. No, it's called an alto cleft. It's an alto cleft. Treble cleft is a tenor cleft. The clefs all have different names. So tenor cleft, treble cleft, tenor cleft. Bass cleft is bass cleft. Why does it move? It depends on the instrument. Most of the time with alto cleft, with the C cleft, it's predominantly like viola that plays it. But there are some other instruments that do play C cleft. But it's just, that one's the only one that can move. And it's annoying when it does, because then all of the notes change. Like it shifts. Just viola, from my understanding. It's just viola. I don't know any wind instruments or any percussion instruments that use alto cleft. I think if anything, bassoon may use alto cleft, but it's very rare that they would use an alto cleft. But I'm also not a bassoonist, so I cannot confirm nor deny. But I do know that it is in whatchamacallit, viola. If you look at the screenshot that I posted of Maddie's piece, you can actually see the alto cleft. It's the only one that doesn't look like the ones that we're learning today. And it's only with the viola. I hate it. I hate C cleft so much, because it just changes everything. Like, I hate bass cleft, but I hate C cleft more. So, back on track. This swirl right here is only on line 4. It can't be on line 3, it can't be on line 5, it can't be on line 1. It can't. No, it does not move. It cannot move. So it's always only on line 4. What about the lower notes? Well, we have now the bass cleft. I keep saying cleft instead of clef. I don't know why. It's fine. I can English. So the bass clef is pronounced like a bass guitar, not a bass fish. If you were to tell me, well, the bass clef, I will look at you very strangely, and it will take me a few minutes to realize you mean bass. This is where English is very fun. I'm not sorry, because English has been this way for hundreds of years. So the bass clef, treble clef is used for the upper notes. Remember that piano analogy. Right hand is for upper notes. The left hand is for the lower notes. So it's used for lower notes on the piano, and it's used for low instruments. Instruments like the tuba, the cello, the baritone, some of the baritone, trombone, timpani. For percussion, uses bass clef. Those are lower instruments. They produce very, very beautiful low sounds. Oh, beautiful. Now, I asked many people, and many people think the bass clef looks different things. Someone says that it looks like half a heart. Dev actually said that it looks like a very fancy 9. I think it looks like a backwards C. Either way, though, If you're going to do this giant dot right here, it has to be on line 2. There are 2 dots on the bass clef. Excuse me. They also have to be in between line 2. Everything here. So, treble clef, line 4, bass clef, line 2. Line 4, line 2. These are the ones, like, these cannot move at all. You move them, they're not their cleft anymore. They're something else. So, with that though, what actually can go on these? What do we actually put on these, and how do we actually find out what it is we're playing, how it is we're playing, and how can we read this? Why? Musician creators hundreds of years ago said, no, you cannot move them. That's why. It kind of goes back to the harpsichord, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it goes back into a long time ago in music history. Like, late medieval, with, like, basso continuo, and Dev's, like, asking, I'm making Dev very confused. Yeah, like, it's just, long time ago in history. Again, these rules, these are the ones that cannot change. Theory, the stuff that Maddie always does, those rules can get broken 5 ways to Sunday and no one will care. Because those rules are meant to be broken. Once you have a basic understanding. What I'm teaching, all of this, no, you can't break it. You can't change the rules. It's been this way for over a millennia. Yeah. Basso continuo. Yeah, Gregorian chant, basso continuo. Like, when Gregorian chant started towards the end of medieval era in music, which would have been about 1430, because medieval era ended at about 1450. But yeah. And then Renaissanceal, that would have been, like, kind of the start of, like, the string instruments and the harpsichord. And so developing how to actually play those. Are those lower notes? Are those higher notes? And so it's just what ended up working. If you want a music history lesson, let us know. I would love to teach, like, an instrumental history, music history, because instrumental music history is just, like, fascinating. Like, don't get me wrong, the vocal stuff's interesting too, and the piano stuff's interesting. But the fact that instrumental, we're the ones that, yeah, you could keep creating instruments for as long as possible. You can't keep creating pianos. I love music history, though. But yeah, there's any of that. Alright, so, how do we know what goes on? The music alphabet. Understanding what letters are in the music alphabet is the easiest thing. So, what I want you to do is think of the English alphabet. All letters, A to Z. All 26 letters. I need Dev to tell me that she's thinking of all 26 letters in the English alphabet. Puts it in the planning book. Dev, I love you. But think of all the letters. I'm waiting for it to catch up, because I know lag is really bad. I know the stream lag is really bad. Waiting. Da-da, da-da, da-da. Da-da, da-da. Waiting. I hope Dev is thinking of the first 26 letters. So now that you're thinking of the first of all 26, now switch it. First 7. A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are our notes. People keep asking, what are the notes? These are notes. Not this. This is called something. This is a specific name. But the letters in the music alphabet are the actual notes. I can be able to go to Donna and be like, hey, can you play a C? Can you play this note C? Now it would be very different because I would actually be saying it in a very different way. C, D. But those are notes. The music alphabet is the actual note. And it's 7 letters. So, what happens if we go, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G? What happens? We just go back to A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. On and on and on and on and on. Forever. Well, for as much as our instrument can handle. My instrument goes from E to C. Piano goes from C to C. Yeah, piano is C to C. And that's like 5 octaves? I'm not sure. But the music alphabet is like so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that's a vocal thing. That's a vocal, that's actually, so it's not just Europeans, it's like everyone in the like everyone around the world, that's a vocal thing. In order to be able to actually understand the note names, like if I were to give you a piece of music right now, like, say, I don't know, a chanson sonata, clarinet sonata. Like, if I was going to give you my part for a chanson clarinet sonata, you can't say, oh, that note is T. I'm going to be like, what? That note's an E. So you have to know the actual music alphabet. The do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti is great as a vocalist. When you're trying to figure out pitches. And that gets into scales, which we'll go over the next class. That actually gets into like scales because the do actually changes depending on where the scale is. Depending on the scale and depending on the starting pitch, it changes. Music alphabet doesn't change. The actual names of the notes don't change whatsoever. So, do they actually know the alphabet? Because I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, they probably struggle a little bit with the actual note names. Because they know it as pitches. Like, Yoongi. Yoongi is a trained pianist. Put it to you this way. Yoongi is a trained pianist. Yoongi, because he's done this in a Bangtan Bomb, he'll go, okay, this is like a C major 7, or this is a D, E, F. The other guys, Yoongi's a trained musician. I think RM's a trained musician. They're all trained musicians now. But, like, at the time, not all of them were, so they would all do things using do, re, mi. Now, they know the note names. Because it's just, do, re, mi is a vocal thing, not an instrumental thing. Which is why I like being an instrumentalist more than a vocalist. So now I have Sound of Music in my head. But, here's the big thing. Where do they go? You can look at the picture, but the picture probably is very confusing. Where do they go? Let's start with the treble clef. It's the easiest one, in my opinion. I play it. It's the easy one. That swirl I keep mentioning, that swirl that goes over line 4. Excuse me. Hold on, let me take a drink of my tea. You can tell I'm a teacher. I drink tea. I have to make sure to keep my mouth not dry. This swirl that's on line 4. You notice this letter, G, right here. This note, G. Right here on line 4, G. That is the easiest way to remember what the clef is, A, what the clef is, and B, where the first note goes. Because once you get past that, it's easier to put the note names in their proper place. because again, you're just following the alphabet. So what I mean by that is, let me pull that back up. I'm going to show my notebook again. My horrible treble clef, but you can kind of see where I put my G, and then all the spaces after, and then the spaces under it. Like everything here started with G. Interesting fact though, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first note I learned how to play on my clarinet, was G. Because that, for me, G is just on a clarinet, it's open, no holes are covered, it's no hand. Because that's how we get actual sound to play. Interesting fact, treble clef, or treble clef, is also known as the tenor clef because it plays the upper notes. It can play high notes. It's also known as G clef because of where the swirl is. The swirl signifies where the clef, what note goes there. Now, here's the fun part. Chinchado. Okay. Here's the really fun part. What about the rest of the letters? Let's start with the spaces. The spaces are easier than the lines because there's always 4 notes in each space. And believe me, with treble clef, this one is truly the easy one. And you're going to see why. So, let's count the notes in the spaces. We have our note F, then A, C, E. What does that spell? F-A-C-E. What is that? Wait. E is what? F-A-C-E. No, we don't have a special phrase. No, there's none of that. F-A-C-E. I'm waiting for Dev to get the light bulb. Face. Literally, face. There's no special phrase. There's nothing or any of that. Spaces. That's another way to remember treble clef. If you see treble clef, you know the spaces are going to spell face. Easy. Very easy. Now, with the lines for treble clef and the spaces and lines for bass clef, we have special phrases. These are phrases that are taught whenever you're first learning either how to read music, like in American elementary school classes, when I was in elementary school, I remembered how to read notes and was taught phrases. We're taught phrases to remember where the note names and like the order of the notes. And we're taught phrases for a lot of things. This is where it becomes very tricky. In all honesty, bass is the easiest. Now, there's 5 lines. We already know G, but then there's also E, G, B, D, and F. This stands for, this is what I was taught. You can come up with any phrase you want to, as long as it starts with these 5 letters. So, I was taught, every good boy does fine. Every good boy does fine. That's what I was taught. Now, Ananya this morning was asking, why are there 2 E's? Why is there an E here and why is there an E here? That seems like it would be very confusing. There's an F here, there's an F here. That seems confusing. At first, yes, it does get confusing, but you have to remember, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We keep going back to the same alphabet. We don't go to H, we don't go to I, or any of that. It's the same ones. Next class, I'm going to give you the actual term for this here to here. Here to here. I will give you what the actual term is called because there is a term for it. And that's where we start getting into theory. Next class, we're truly starting to get into theory. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. But just remember, face, every good boy does fine. Treble clef. Write it down if you need to. Reference back to it. Believe me, you will need to. Because, let's go into the next one, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's look at the bass clef. I hate the bass clef so much. I hate it so much. There will always, forever and always be a clef that you will struggle with remembering. Know how I mentioned how much I hate alto clef? I hate alto clef a lot because that one can move. Bass clef, it goes backwards. I don't like going backwards. I like going forwards. That's why I like treble clef. But also, the same with the treble clef, the bass clef has a name. This line 2, where this big dot is and the 2 dots in between are, line 2, right here, F. F, F, F. This is where F is. So this is also called the F clef. So treble clef is the G clef, bass clef is the F clef. A lot of times you'll hear bass clef because bass is easier to say than F, shockingly. There are very few times where I have heard F clef, but a lot of times you'll tend to hear tenor clef or G clef with treble because those are easier to pronounce than treble clef. This one is the hard one. I am not sugarcoating it at all. This one is the hard one. Here's why. It doesn't have an easy phrase to go with. It doesn't have something easy like face. This one is all phrases you have to learn. So, every phrase, there's a phrase for the spaces and there's a phrase for the lines. The reason we do that is to not confuse the musician. When a musician is learning this, it's easy to get confused by just the simple audacity of everything because it is very confusing. So we try to make it easier on the learner, and so we always just separate. This is where the staff, this is where the spaces are, this is where the lines are. So for the spaces is going to be the easy one. Spaces we have A, C, E, and G. A, C, E, G. This is all cows eat grass. This was the one I was taught whenever the very first time I learned bass clef, which I think was like in junior high or in high school. I was referenced to it in elementary, but I didn't kind of really get into it until junior high or high school. And then not again until I took theory in university. But all cows eat grass. Some people also know all cars eat gas. I prefer the cow and grass. I prefer cows than the car. But it's whatever is easiest for you to remember them. And then for the lines, we have G, B, D, F, and A. This one I had to look up because I couldn't remember. This one, good boys do fine always. Good boys do fine always. Bass clef is the one that you're going to be referencing back to the most. Believe me. It's the trickiest one because even if you remember where F is, you have to go backwards. Treble clef, you find where G is, you just go forwards. Bass clef, you have to go backwards. There's no and, if, or but about it. But you're probably wondering, why do the different clefs have different letter names? Why are they different? What's the reason for it, or any of that? Because there's a very common note that goes in between both treble and bass whenever you're looking at piano music. It is the note that sits right in the middle. And in order to get that note in the middle, we have to add lines. And we can add lines to make lower notes. We can add lines to make higher notes. There is technically no limit to the number of lines one can have. Granted, though, the limit would be probably however high or low the instrument actually goes. Power off. I have a phone that's dying. How high or low an instrument will go. For example, this note right here, this is as low as my instrument can go. I can go to a low E. I love going to a low. I love this note so much. And with my instrument, we're taught these notes before we're taught these notes because of how my instrument works. But we add these little lines right here. These are called ledger lines. Ledger lines follow the same rule as lines and spaces. But you notice with ledger lines, you don't have a full complete line. You can't. That's the rule. That's the rule that's been set in place for over a millennia. There's not a way to, because it will confuse the musician. If I were to put a full line for where C is, that would confuse me so much. So, you just have a little one for the note. But it follows the same rules. So we have line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space, and it can keep going up. Space, line, space, line, space, line, space, keep going down. And it's the same way with bass clef. The note that fits perfectly between both clefs is the note C. This note right here, C, fits perfectly between both clefs on piano music. So, if you want to go high from C, if you're looking at our common C here, if you want to go high, you'll go up the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, however high it goes. If you want to go low, you go down. B, A, G, I can't even do it fast. B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D. I can't do it backwards. I can do it forwards perfectly. I can't do it backwards. I have friends who play bass clef, and they think that what we do is easy. And that bass clef is easy. 2, 6, there. There we go. Now it's shutting off. Okay. It is confusing. But you just have to remember, where that C is, that's our common C. Anything above, you're going up the alphabet. Anything below, you're going down the alphabet. For example, I'm going to show you this one. Again, my wonderful drawing. But you notice, here's my middle C. I go up the alphabet and I go all the way up to A, which is a ledger line. And then I go down the alphabet and I go down to G, or down to F. Here's the thing. This picture is wrong. This is not supposed to be F. This is supposed to be G. F, E, D, C, B, A. This down here is wrong. Up here is right. Down here is wrong. I didn't get a chance to fix it because I did other stuff today. It is very confusing. It is something that will take lots of work. So what I would highly, highly recommend you do is do what I did. Draw out the staff, put in the treble and bass clef, put in your C, and then write in the alphabet. And then here, on either side of the clef, either side of the staffs, put line, ... treble, lines, ... bass. Spaces, every good boy does fine. bass clef, lines, ... all cows eat grass, spaces, ... good boys do fine always. Okay? That's the easiest way, so that way you can keep referencing back to it until it just becomes second nature. Granted, because your teacher plays a treble clef instrument, everything we're going to be looking at from basically now on is going to be predominantly in treble clef. I would recommend making sure you know your treble clef. Because if you don't, my class is just going to get a lot harder. Just going to be a lot harder. So, before I get into homework, are there any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? This is I keep referencing this because it needs to stick. This is something you have to keep working on. And if you forget something, just look at where the important part of the staff is. Where is the swirl on the treble clef? Where are the dots on the bass clef? That will help you. If you can't remember those notes, go back to your notes and look at your notes. What goes where? What is what? So, I am going to switch off. So that way, we can get into our homework. For homework, you have 2 pieces of music. And I'm going to post these on Twitter, and I'm going to post these on the Discord. But you have 2 pieces of music. Your homework is to write the note names for both songs. I cannot help you. Donna cannot help you. Maddie cannot help you. You have to reference this video. You have to reference the stream in order to get the help if you are having trouble. You don't need to do rhythm. You don't need to look at any of that. You just need to write in the note names. You can put it on a separate piece of paper or any of that. But you have to write the note names. Now, there is something that I did not go over. And that is, I don't want a highlighter, I want a pen. And I don't want it to be yellow, I want it to be purple. And that is, I'm going to use my clarinet. That's this, right here. That's this line, this vertical line, right here. So with this vertical line, and it goes all the way down, this is called a bar line. It's not something you need to know right away. It is something that we will be learning in the next class. Because the next class, we are officially starting on scales. Now that you have the basic note names, we're about to expand your knowledge. Let's see. Oh, the cello music doesn't have any of it. It has minor and E7. One time. You have probably seen in music a weird bee looking thing and a hashtag. We're going to learn what that weird bee looking thing and the hashtag is actually called. And how they're used. We're going to start on official scales. I am excited. I have to figure out which one I want to do first. If I want to go one side of the circle of this, or if I want to go to the other side. I have to figure that out. I'm probably going to do the easier of the 2 sides. For me. I'm going to do the typical easier one of the 2, which will just help. But we're going to go over scales, and then we're also going to go over this baby right here. This right here. We're going to go over that and exactly what that is and how it works. And it's called a time signature. And with time signatures, it's very important. Like, time signatures are very important because they go with the bar lines. We're not going to get into crazy time signatures. We're only going to do the basic time signatures. But other than that, that is the end of class. Are there any questions about anything before I let you go and go off and do whatever it is? Oh, I forgot to mention, our next class will be on the 18th of July. That's putting pressure on me. I have work stuff that's due on the 16th, and then I have vacation the following week, so I needed to do it before I go on vacation. Time signatures seem really scary. They're really not. Time signatures really aren't as scary as you think they are. And you'll see why. Time signature, they seem very scary. If anything, the scales are what's scary. Time signature isn't. The scales are going to be what's scary because the scales scales. There's going to be scales that you're just going to be like, what the F are you talking about? Why is this a scale? Because I've said that while doing scales or learning music. But if there's not any questions, I will see you in the next class.